Find out. Bree, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
All right, guys, can you hear Bree coming through? All right, Bree, you'll have to just speak up a little bit for us.
All right, is this better?
That's better. You can just yell right at the top of your lungs so everybody can hear you. Technology, it's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So, guys, hopefully this is coming through clear. We're going to have a little bit of fun with this. Worst case scenario is you might miss a few little bits and pieces, but I'll make sure that Bree speaks quite loudly. So I'm excited to have Bree on the phone. Bree, why don't you just tell us a little bit about you? Just start with where you're located.
I am located in specifically Frankenmuth, Michigan. I do all Michigan region as of right now.
Okay, Frankenmuth, Michigan. Now, so that's obviously in Detroit. I'm from Canada, so that's Detroit.
I am about 2 hours north of Detroit.
Okay, excellent. And, what were you doing before you started teaching for the self-defense company?
I have several years of law enforcement experience. I was a law enforcement officer for about 4 years. And I have a lot of other customer service experience and such like that.
Okay. So just talk a little bit about your law enforcement background. I mean, as much with what you can.
Okay, sure. Well, I obviously went through the police academy, and then I worked with actually Frankenmuth Police Department right here in my hometown. And I worked there for about 4 years, made it up to a sergeant in my division. And basically, if anybody knows anything about Frankenmuth, Michigan, which we are a little German town, very small, so a lot of people think that this is a very safe place to be. That's kind of how Frankenmuth is looked at. But we actually did a lot of surrounding areas. We actually had to go down to Detroit and back up Detroit. We had to back up Flint, Michigan quite a few times. And it was a very eye-opening experience being in law enforcement. It was actually where my passion was and is still, is with law enforcement. But I got to experience a very broad spectrum of different cases, I guess you could say. I was able to train in Krav Maga very closely with several other people to get trained in that. Also PPCT, which is the tactics that are used for law enforcement as well. So I had a lot of training there from that side for the self-defense spectrum of it, but I was able to experience a lot of things that others outside of law enforcement aren't able to experience, and it gave me more of a passion to serve and protect and help people. But my range here was from drug busts to fatal accidents to drunk people. Obviously, with Frankenmuth festivals, that's what we do here is people drink. That's the big portion of Frankenmuth.
Mm-hmm.
Strong German beers, so there's a lot of drunks that were involved in a lot of festivals that take place with a lot of different people that you have to be able to detain, basically. And but that's basically, I guess, in a broad spectrum, is my law enforcement experience from different realms.
Awesome. And you know what? I mean, I remember when we first had a conversation, we were talking about law enforcement and, the whole self-defense company. And that kind of brought me to the next question that I wanted to ask you now is, what made you decide to become an instructor for the self-defense company?
I chose to become an instructor because leaving law enforcement left my passion, or what I felt that I was put on this earth to do, kind of at a loss. I wasn't sure of my position in life. I didn't know where my next step was going to be. And when I left law enforcement, I went to a 9-to-5 job using my business administration management degree and started using that to see if that was my life goal, I guess you could say. And I decided that that wasn't something for me. A 9-to-5 was not for me, and I needed to find a way to continue serving my passion of helping people. So I started looking into self-defense instructing to see if that would be able to fulfill my passion as far as helping people. It wouldn't obviously go as far as wearing a full uniform, defending or protecting those out there, but it gives that upper hand of being able to teach those how to defend themselves.
Excellent.
Not having to wait until a situation occurs before they have to call 911, and then the delay response before we can even arrive. The situation had already happened.
That's right.
So this was able to give me the situation, or be able to give me the opportunity to show others how to defend themselves and continue on my passion of serving and protecting and helping my community and those around me.
Yep. And that's perfect, Bree. And I guess the next question that kind of comes with that, we've established that, why you wanted to teach self-defense, but I mean, there's so many programs that are out there. You talked a little bit about Krav Maga. I mean, there's a lot of self-defense systems that are out there. What is it that you like about the self-defense training system and the self-defense company?
From the training side of it, I love the tactics. And I'll be completely honest with you, looking at law enforcement and becoming a civilian, the things that are taught in law enforcement training, Krav Maga and the stuff for PPCT, geared towards law enforcement officers, it doesn't specifically work as a civilian because you're trained to go after a criminal. As a civilian, you don't technically have to go after somebody. Obviously, you want to try and keep your distance as much as possible. You don't want to have to try to detain a criminal if it's not necessary. So that's where I was trying to find realistic tactics, realistic scenarios that would work in a civilian lifestyle. That was my biggest goal.
Mm-hmm.
So while doing the research and everything, I came across the self-defense company, and it literally just outweighed by all positives by over a mile. There was several other companies out there, and I looked at all of them, and they weren't realistic. It wasn't to the point where I didn't have to sit back and watch these videos that Damien was doing that, okay, how is that even going to be possible? How is anybody at any age group or any strength level going to be able to do that? And that's what I was wondering with a lot of the different companies was how much training is actually going to be involved? How much strength do you actually have to be able to make this feasible or even possible?
Mm-hmm.
And not even just the tactics, but it was even just the support system, what all came along with becoming an instructor. It wasn't just that, here's your certification, congratulations, now you're off on your own. Damien has been a huge support. George, you have been an awesome support.
Thank you.
But also at the same time is all of the instructors come together and we support each other. We push each other, we promote each other. And if anybody's stuck or struggling, there's that whole support system that backs your certification. You're not just left wondering, okay, now where do I go from here? How do I get started? What is the next step in my career? Where do I even go with this? It's all spelled out, all up front, ready to go. And that, I think, is what completely sold me with the self-defense company.
Well, and and I'm glad it did, and I appreciate you saying, about the help and everything, but I feel we're becoming more like a family. The way that we've been growing over the last little while, I've seen so much happen with the self-defense company and the instructors, and we've got some great quality people, which has been, very exciting, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, I know you've been teaching classes, so why don't you talk just kind of like quickly about the classes that you do? I mean, who you teach, how often, what your focus is, how you've implemented the self-defense training system in Frankenmuth.
Sure. Basically, how I got started was I contacted a couple of local gyms and to see if they had any space available, or if I could rent the facility from them. Being started, not knowing that I was actually going to be starting my own company as quickly as I did, I wanted to take advantage of renting storefronts that were already there, already known, to be able to help me spread the word that I was here. So that's where I started. Specifically was going to gyms and other locations to see if they had space available. I then decided that I kind of basically figured out a plan of what I was going to teach in the basic and how I was going to kind of make a schedule out. And I kind of came up with right now with the availability that I have, I came up with a basic course and an advanced course to be able to separate those. I don't have specifics as far as I only train specific people. I do have the doors open for ages 13 and up, both genders. Being a female instructor, I do see a lot more females just because of the demographics. But I've seen all age groups, I've had ages 13 all the way up to, I believe the lady was 82 years old.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's
So,
I'm kind of glad that you mentioned the whole thing about being a female instructor there for a moment, because I mean this has always been sort of a male dominated industry. And I remember our very first conversation when I said to you it was exciting to actually bring women on board, because I feel a lot of times women can relate to a woman instructor much better depending on their background, maybe what they faced in life, or just the way they are. What's it like for you being a woman self-defense instructor?
honestly, it's very hard. Being the fact not only that I'm female, but I'm also young. A lot of people don't expect the experience that I have behind me, and also the abilities. They don't expect to come to a class and having somebody younger than them, not only being female, but being younger than them, teaching them how to defend their lives. So it is a little harder to sell, to be completely honest, but at the same time, once they get into one of my courses, they have complete and utter respect for me because of the knowledge and the training that I have.
Absolutely.
So it's taken a lot of word of mouth to be able to get it started, and it's taken a lot of trust on other people's part to jump on board. But I think the biggest thing for me was it took a little bit to get the classes rolling, but it's all been word of mouth and experience from other people that have brought other people on board because of my age and being a female is very hard in a male's role, I guess you could say.
Yep.
I mean, even being law enforcement, it was hard being a young female at the same time. So it's been a struggle, but it's also given me the motivation to continue pushing forward because I take the negativity and I make it a positivity for me.
That's excellent. And just before I jump to the next question, I just wanted to bring to your attention, Bree, because you're not online this way. Shauna, I'm not going to state everything that she said, but she did mention that she strongly believes that every female should know some self-defense, and just wanted to let you know that you're an inspiration to her. She's on the line right now, so.
Well, thank you. I greatly appreciate that. It does boost a little bit of confidence hearing that as well. And I completely agree. It does. Every female should learn because, in all honesty, being the fact that we're female makes us an easier target to begin with. We are easily targeted, and a lot more of those areas come toward female with the realistic scenarios that happen on a day-to-day basis.
And that's correct. And I mean, we had a conversation about this before too, about what women face and the quality of self-defense training that's out there. And I think there's a very big disconnect with martial artists trying to teach women self-defense, because they're teaching the whole what to do in case of a wrist grab, or what to do in case somebody's on top of you or something like that, or even women who come saying, what do I do if I'm grabbed here, or what do I do with this? They're so focused on technique, but they're not paying as much attention to situational awareness and understanding how to be assertive as opposed to being just aggressive or passive. So I mean, I really like what we offer, because we focus, yes, on the techniques when shit hits the fan, but we spend a lot of time really educating people on the fact that a lot has gone wrong from that initial interview to a physical attack. I think you'd probably agree with me on that.
I agree 110%. And in my basic course, that's a huge part of my beginning of my course is situation awareness and how these type of simple or realistic scenarios and attacks take place and how they start. And it's just a matter of being able to pay attention to your surroundings and knowing what's going on, and having all that preparation prior to and knowing what to do. Not even just getting to the tactics portion, but knowing and having a plan prior to is a huge first step to being less of an easy target compared to the next person that walks out those doors behind you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Brie, let me ask you, what are your, teaching plans moving forward? Where do you see yourself going with the self-defense company?
I personally plan to open up my own storefront and opening up a lot more availability. I have a lot of people that want a consistent, regular, ongoing training. I don't want to say specifically the same aspect as martial arts, but I continue seeing myself leveling up. Hopefully another promotion coming up here soon. But I plan to have more availability. I have a couple of things coming up here, hopefully, the beginning of this year, or the beginning of 2019, with commercial opportunities as well. Trying to train those inside employment and training them to what could possibly happen in their environment, also outside the doors of the employment.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a couple of those coming up, hopefully at the beginning of this year as well, which I think will help branch me out even further. But my biggest goal for 2019 is storefront and getting into the commercial properties.
Excellent, excellent. Now, if people wanted to get a hold of you, Bree, what would be the best way for them to do that? Because there's going to be people listening to this webinar, if they're in the Frankenmuth area or even remotely close or want to book you. How would you suggest they reach out to you?
Email is usually the best source of contact, and that email is self-defense, F as in Frank, Muth @yahoo.com.
Okay. And you've also obviously got your Facebook presence. You have a Facebook business page. So if people were looking you up on Facebook, they would look up, I'm guessing, the self-defense company of Frankenmuth. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, excellent. Is there anything kind of, as we wind down, is there anything that you'd like to say to anyone that might be considering becoming an instructor, whether they're male or female? Any thoughts or opinions or advice?
Yeah, I would definitely say that if you have a passion in this area, it's definitely something that you should definitely do. Not only because it gives you a reason to, or it gives you something to fulfill that passion, but there's so many people out there that you can help. And so many people out there that don't even know that they need something like this. And once you make it aware to them what's going on in this world, we're never going to go away because we constantly need that.
Yep.
And don't let the risk hold you back. You just got to take and jump full feet, full force, and ready to go. We're all going to be here to support you. We're all going to be here to help you push forward. So don't let that risk of what happens next be your biggest fear. Because starting out, I thought that before I made this decision of what happens if it doesn't work? What am I going to do? But this isn't a career set that's going to go away, but it's also a career set that you need to know that you're passionate about. Because if it's not something you're passionate about, it's going to be a very hard thing to sell. But it is definitely a life-changing experience.
And I agree, 100%. I couldn't have said that any better myself. And just to touch on what you said about helping people, I always say, if I can help just one person, it's more than worth it. Absolutely more than worth it. An excellent question just came in, and I'm going to touch on this a little bit here. And guys, I'd like to leave this open for a few minutes for you to ask questions of Bree as well. But there was a question that came in about Tony Blauer's Spear system. And you know what, guys, Tony is a great instructor. I can't say anything bad about him. I absolutely love his program. You're asking about his system using a person's reflex action to produce faster counters. The concept and the idea behind that is quite good, because a response should always be based on a person's reflexes. Now, I think you'd agree with me on that, Bree, because when a person flips from high brain to a low brain, they can only rely on those gross motor skills, those gross motor reactions. So dealing with a person's reflex to produce faster counters is the way to go. Now, I would have to see what techniques or what Tony is actually teaching to let you know if I think that it's a true reflex. Why I chose the self-defense training system and the self-defense company is because out of all the systems that I've seen, we've eliminated all the finite motor skills. Everything is gross motor, and we give you one solution for multiple scenarios. We don't try and give you multiple solutions, because if we do give you multiple solutions and you all of a sudden deal with a stress or an attack or whatnot, now you got all these different things going through your head, and you're trying to think, do I do this? Do I do that? He grabbed me this way. Do I do this? He grabbed me that way. And that is going to cause more of a freeze. It's going to cause a lot more chance that you're going to be unable to react in a way that you need to. All of your reactions should be completely instinctive and convulsive. Bree, is there anything that you'd kind of like to say about that, the idea of using a reflex action to produce faster counters when you're attacked?
Yeah, definitely just even add on to the part about the multiple solutions to one problem and even the process of freezing. That is one of the biggest things that I hear as a concern from all of my students is I feel like I'll freeze. And that's why we only teach, I mean, you can use these tactics in so many different ways and so many different manners that you just need a combination and you're good to go. You don't have all this training with, okay, so he grabs me front ways on the wrist, how do I get out of it? He grabs me flat on the back of the wrist, how do I get out of it? Just different things like that. There are so many different solutions to one problem that one tactic is going to overrun all of those options, basically, if that makes sense. If we can provide a simple solution, obviously, yes, there's training involved, but if there's one simple solution to a bunch of different problems, people are going to be in a lot better scenarios. They're not going to sit there and wonder in that tunnel vision with their heart pumping, their blood rate, or their heart rate and their blood pumping. That's going to be their automatic go-to. It's going to be the muscle memory, and that is going to be the best way to go for that route.
Excellent. Did that answer your question? Okay. Guys, is there any more questions while you have us here? All right. Well, we've been on for just shy of half an hour. I guess at this point we can just wind her down. There's no other parting thoughts on my side. Bria, is there any parting thoughts on your side at this point?
No, I would say everything was covered pretty well, and if they have any questions, I am open to any questions if they want to send any my way, especially any female instructors or anybody who's questioning doing this. Being as I only started exactly about a year ago and officially opened my doors in January, starting out questions, anything like that, I'm more than happy to answer anything, and my door is open.
Okay. Just two quick questions came in here. Your email again. Can you throw that out or just state it again here? It is what?
Self-defense.
So self-defense.
Yep. S as in Frank, M as in Mary, U as in Union, T as in Tom, H as in Henry, at yahoo.com.
So that's self-defense, F, Muth, right?
Correct.
At yahoo.com?
Yep.
All right.
F Muth is short for Frankenmuth. It's just a lot easier. Everybody knows it here in the hometown, but it's a lot easier than trying to spell out Frankenmuth.
Absolutely, absolutely. And your Facebook page was the Self-Defense Company of Frankenmuth.
That is correct.
Okay. Now, another question came in about using gear. This individual uses the Spartan gear, and I've also used the Spartan gear for doing some reality-based scenarios. I use the Predator armor as well, which I love. I understand, Bree, that you use the Red Man suit.
Yes, I just got the Red Man suit, and it is absolutely amazing.
It is. The only thing that I don't, and why I never used the Red Man suit, was you can't attack the head and the groin at full capacity. I mean, you can give a guy a pretty good shot, but you can't go 100% with that. But to the rest of the body, you can go pretty aggressive. So it's definitely a great tool to use. I find with the Spartan gear, you can't go too hard with that either. But I mean, at the end of the day, we want to use gear so we can give our students as realistic training experience as we possibly can. I think you would agree with that.
Yes, I do, 110%. We use, obviously, I have Bob, and I use that for all of my training, but bringing in the Red Man suit has just been a huge eye-opener for my students because they can see the effect on Bob on how the tactics work.
Yep.
And the realistic effect of using it against a dummy. But as far as being able to have somebody fighting back and having somebody have a little bit of tension back and starting in different areas and different things like that, the Red Mantic suit has been a world of difference.
That's fantastic. Now, there was one more question that's come in so far, talking about carrying concealed. Now, up in Canada, we can't do that. The U.S., I mean, you guys have so many different rules going state by state. So, Frankenmuth, do you carry concealed, Bree, or?
Yes, I do. In Michigan, state of Michigan, you can carry concealed, and I hold very tight to it.
Okay.
Some people look at it as this is something that's going to protect them, and then they realize, especially being female, it's hard because you have a harder time finding a way to conceal your weapon. They don't, female clothing doesn't give you the upper hand of trying to conceal a pistol. They usually use purses and stuff like that, but it's harder for females, and a lot of females will do it to try and find a way to feel more confident in themselves. Mm-hmm. But they end up turning back and falling back towards the hand-on-hand combat because they look at concealed carry as a liability more so than anything. But myself personally, is I hold that very close with that Second Amendment that I have because of, I guess, law enforcement. You always have one on your hip, so kind of was ingrained in me, but I don't go anywhere without it.
Yeah, I get the question, kind of the follow-up to that, and it may need to be reworded because I don't necessarily understand all of the thing with carry concealed down there, but he was saying specifically, do you offer it as a force multiplier?
Like, do I guess this would be my question is, are you asking if I use that as, like, training? Like, do I have people follow up and get their CPL, or are you asking is that, like, do I use that as a backup?
All right, let's see. Do you commingle during training?
No. I don't do anything with conceal right now as far as my training. If somebody has a specific question, I'm more than happy to discuss it with them personally. Mm-hmm. I stray away from having any sort of concealed carry training involved, just because of the difference of age, the difference of those that do it, don't do it. I try to keep that as much separate as possible. They don't, like I said, if it's an individual question, I'll work with them personally, but it's not something that I strongly offer because of the liability.
Absolutely. Okay. Perfect. So he says thank you for that. Fantastic. So we've gone a little bit over what I planned, guys. So I'm going to shut her down here in just a few moments. Bree's put her information out. Please, if you're in the area or you're looking or you're even interested in having her come to you, contact her. I endorse her 100%. She's an amazing, amazing instructor. Women that are out there, get in touch with her because, I mean, she's really got it together, and she can help you if you decide that you want to pursue this and build a business as a self-defense instructor. So that's it for tonight, guys. Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to our next interview. Bree, thank you so much for being on this call.
Thanks, guys. You guys all have a good night.
All right, you take care, Bree. Bye for now.
Bye.
Good night, guys.